Well, this one is really interesting. The Evercade is basically like a retro style console slash handheld, depends on which one you buy. And yeah, there's a Duke Nukem release for it, which is essentially like, what would you describe it as, John? Like a remaster of the DOS versions of the game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
really impressive. I mean, didn't we see it at Gamescom?
We did. We did.
And it was really cool.
So I really this I think they've stumbled onto something that's really cool here with this, and this kind of already exists, but seeing it on a little handheld is really cool. So basically, the Duke Nukem pack includes Duke Nukem 1 and 2, as well as 3D. And there's a caveat with 3D to mention, but Duke 1 and 2 is a native port of the, I guess, Rigel engine. I don't know how you say it,
Side
but
scrolling, but yeah, that's the
basically
point, isn't it?
somebody made a source port enhanced version of these games for PC, and I believe they worked with them to natively port this to the Evercade. And the idea is it takes Duke Nukem 1 and 2 and solves all the technical problems and also tries to improve the gameplay. Because on old PCs from that era, despite still technically being more powerful than consoles of the time, with the way graphics worked in the PCs really struggled with smooth scrolling. Like moving tiles and bitmaps around was difficult. Like even when you go back and you hear about this like Mario 3 thing that the id guys did, like Carmack created, right?
Mhm.
And then you actually look at these demos and you look at Commander Keen, it's pretty easy to understand why Nintendo would have like turned them straight down, because it doesn't actually run that smoothly compared, like it doesn't feel like NES quality in terms of fluidity, right? It's not. And that's the case with Duke Nukem as well. Duke Nukem 1 and 2, I haven't actually measured it, but they're like either 15 or 20 frames per second games. Like they're very choppy. And they always were. You could tell back in the day, as fun as they
Yeah.
were, they didn't run well. And that was just a problem with the way PC was at the time, by and large. Rygo engine fixes that. And on the Evercade now, not only do you get them in full 16 by 9 widescreen, it pixel matches the screen, so it's super sharp pixel art, but it runs at 60 frames per second. So
Big upgrade.
it's now, and you can actually still toggle to the original, which is funny. It has one of those like Halo Anniversary style toggles where you just tap the button and it switches back to the original DOS setup. But they've gone further. They've built a new UI that also is optional. That's much more suitable for 16 by 9 play. They've added like a system, like an objective system in there, kind of to sort of guide the player along, because these games could be a little bit aimless at times. And all of this stuff can kind of be toggled and played with to sort of make the Duke experience you want. And just running through the games again like that is awesome as a result. The only caveat that I have to mention that kind of bummed me out is that basically they couldn't get the rights to the original soundtracks
Oh
for
boy.
whatever reason. And I don't know why, because Bobby Prince composed them, but he also worked on Duke 3D, and they ended up just using Duke 3D tunes or some other non-Duke 3D stuff as well, I guess. But the music is totally fine. It's good. It's just not the same as it was in its original incarnation. And it seems to be just a licensing problem,
So
which
weird.
I hate licensing issues like that.
Yeah.
It just ends up hurting everybody else. But still, aside from that, really, really great. Like it's an awesome thing. And I think this is a direction that the Evercade folks should continue to pursue. Bringing back classic PC games like this that perhaps were not super smooth in their original incarnation. Go back deep into the Apogee line of games, maybe form a partnership with them. Like I think that would be cool.
Mhm.
Go get Jill of the Jungle from Epic, Jazz Jackrabbit. Oh wait, Epic won't do that. They don't
Epic
care.
wouldn't ever dare to release any of those
So just
classics.
we'll stick with the Apogee stuff then.
Just
Or
generally, the
or
Evercade is just a great thing. You know, a retro console you can buy that actually has collectible cartridges.
yeah,
That's
it's
rare.
Just
really
a really
fun.
cool little system. We also saw at Gamescom their tiny little handheld.
All right, they have a small version that's really
Yeah,
really cool.
really,
So
really cool.
these are not hardcore machines, but they're very neat, cool little systems, and the games are cheap. And if they're doing stuff like this, it's there's a lot of value there,
Yeah,
and it's
really,
not
really
like
cool team behind it as well.
exactly they really care. They're really trying. I did mention a caveat about Duke though. That's for Duke 3D. They apparently could not get the PC version running on here.
Okay.
So they brought the PlayStation version to it.
That's a very different choice.
It sounds harder. It's a reason.
I don't know what the limitation was. I feel like I there had to have been something going on. Like, I don't know, with these source ports or something, but for whatever reason, they couldn't get the PC version of Duke 3D to work well on the Evercade, apparently. So they ended up they already had done the work to get PlayStation games to run on the system. So I suspect that it was easier to just leverage that rather than going through the extra work to get the PC version working on there. I don't know enough about the specs to say what the actual issue is, but that's basically the story. I mean, to be fair though, like on that small screen, it still looks pretty good. And if you recall, the PlayStation version uses software rendering, which is rare for PS1, so it doesn't have all the texture warping problems. But it was somewhat heavy on the PlayStation. But you know, I suspect that the PC port would run similarly anyway on something like the Evercade, maybe.
Does it run up to 60 or is it 30?
No, it's capped at. Wait, it might actually go above that. I can't remember.
PC original is like Hollywood unlocked Holocaust. And weird.
I can't remember. I think the PlayStation version might actually be unlocked, but which made it kind of unstable because the PlayStation version has the option to enable or disable VSync in the options menu, which is really rare for console games.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For that era,
but it's there. It's there.
Off. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. It's really nice to see that project come together.
I agree. It's a cool device, and I'm really happy that they did these Duke ports, and I really hope this is a direction to go. Revive old PC stuff. But they're not just doing that. They also have cartridge versions of like modern indie games that are being ported over to this thing and stuff that would have been, you know, digital only. It's cool to get a physical release on a cart for something like this. And for these pixel art style indie games, because the Evercade screen is like a low res pixel screen, even though it's wide, it's still like a low pixel count, kind of like a PSP. It's actually like super well suited for these like pixel art indie games because they just kind of fit the screen just right. So it looks really, really good.